The next technique is actually one of my favorite techniques to use, and that's the technique of using shadows. So when I'm in a bright light situation and I know that sun is shining very bright across the earth, I am looking for shadow patterns. Shadow patterns on the wall, shadow patterns on a tree or whatever. I am just looking for interesting shadow patterns most of the time on a wall. Look at this photo here. What I do is look for some shadowy patterns, and then I put the bright spot right on the subject's eyes so I can create an amazing shot where the face is the brightest part of the image, but then the shadow creates mystery across other parts of the body, and you can just see the eyes lit up as the bright spot. And so I use this technique a lot, and it just creates a bit of mystery. You can have some interesting compositions with it, and all you got to do is place the eyes in the hot spot, and you also have to expose for the brightest part of the image. And so when you expose for the brightest part of the image, it makes the shadows more contrasty and darker, and you're going to create an awesome shot. Sometimes I do this, it's good to do it in black and white because those shadows can create an awesome composition. Let's go to this photo. Now here we are in Paris in this beautiful mansion that I rented out. And the first photo shows you the setup of this shot where you can see the sun coming into that window paned area, creating a grid of shadow on that wall. I am placing my subject right near there where there's a bright spot that's shining right on her face. I put the nose towards the light. It's sort of bright, so I have her close her eyes, but it creates a great mystery to the photo. I turn her body away to ensure that her face is the brightest part of that image. This next shot is shadows created by what they call a banyan tree. These are very, very popular in Hawaii. And these kind of roots come down from the tree, and you can have your subjects kind of look through these roots. Now the sun was directly shining on them, creating these interesting patterns across the face. And what I did is I just positioned her face and her eyes so it was partly in the sun so I could really see the color of her eyes pop out. And so here again, I'm using the direct sun with the shadows to create an interesting shot. Shadows can also create awesome compositional elements. And you can see this couple and what I did. They had this big, huge tree. This was shot in Mexico of a wedding of my friends. And I saw that pattern on the wall and I go, oh, wow, can you just stand under that shadow there? And it made for an interesting composition. And you're basically showing what it is, the environment of where you're shooting, and you're seeing both the couple, but it's the shadow that's showing you the environment. And so it's a little bit different take of telling a story. So you can also tell a story of your environment by just the shadows too. And that's an interesting way to shoot. Here's my next portraits. I happened to be indoors and we were kind of waiting to go to the reception, and we had a bit of time to shoot and we're just kind of sitting around. So I told my bride, I said, hey, listen, there's some interesting shadows that are on the wall. Can I have you sit over there? So I positioned her chair so that shadow would fall straight on her face and light up her face and make her face the brightest part of that image, and then the shadowy part across the rest of her body, just for a different type of portrait. And you know, you don't want to make things obvious all the time, and shadows are a good way to mix it up and show a variety of imagery. This next photo of this bride walking, we were walking through this area where there were a bunch of trees and the sun was poking through the trees, and sometimes her face would be lit up and sometimes it wouldn't, and we'd going back and forth, and then I go, oh my gosh, that's a great photo. So the next time she walked through a highlighted area where it would light up her face, I told her, stop right here. And then I told her to look towards the light and made sure that so you can see how that highlight is right on her eyes, creating an awesome catch light. I told her, okay, stop, look towards the light. Boom, took this shot. It literally took 30 seconds. And then I took a couple shots and walked on. But it was my awareness of shadows and using your natural light situations to create an amazing shot. Again, I love using these banyan trees because it has a lot of texture to it. The bright, direct sun was shining on them, creating a pattern. And again, I just put my lovely couple right in the bright spot, and I took a photo of it. And I like that highlight and shadow and just the contrast of lighting there. Probably this photo would look good in black and white too. I noticed that when I do this technique, you can turn it to black and white and it's going to be very impressive too. The next shot, I see a shadowy texture on the wall and I'm saying, okay, I'm just going to go with it. It's bright light. There's a wall here. And I do my simple technique of nose towards the light and body slightly away. And so you can see that her face is the brightest part of the image, and that shadow that's coming across her creates a little bit of mystery to it. So it's just not a simple bride or just subject against the wall and shooting. That shadow really creates a lot of mystery. Again, here's another photo of, I just found this shadow across this pole, and I said, hey, can you go over there? And nose towards the light, doing a pose that's kind of high fashion, right? Having her close her eyes, but making sure that that light is going right across her eyes, taking the shot, turning it into black and white. It kind of has this high fashion feel. Another shot where this is actually, I'm shooting through some iron grating, and it was casting some interesting shadows on the ground. So I said, hey, can you walk towards this grating here? And I'm taking my camera and I'm shooting through this grating and I'm kind of figuring out where that pattern looks best across his face, and I took the shot. Here is another interesting situation where I had this gal standing up on this tree, which also created some shadow across her face. And it was very interesting, and I had her close her eyes, and I wanted her to feel like a queen or a princess because she had her hair kind of tied up. And so I gave her that, hey, you know, pretend you're a princess. And she stood up and looked towards the sun, and I captured that shot. Here's another shot by some bamboo trees, and it's kind of casting some uneven light, so I kind of went with it. And I also had her look towards that light, but there was some varied light on her. And also you can see that these are shadows, but they're kind of subtle shadows. That wraps up on how to shoot in direct light using shadows. And it's a great way to kind of change up your imagery and create some mystery. And you're going to have a lot of fun looking for shadows and shooting in them. And it's a good challenge and project to give yourself.